And to start off the card, we've got a great matchup with Bruno Silva and Shara Magomedov making his UFC debut. Magomedov 11-0, undefeated with 10 knockouts. The first of many Magomedovs and OVs on the card, but should be an interesting fight with Bruno Silva. Now his 8th fight in the UFC, 4-3 to date. 20 of his 23 wins coming by knockout. So two guys that are going to want to bang and want to probably drop each other. But Bruno Silva's got an interesting career. He's 4-3 in the UFC and was 3-0 with 3 finishes, 2 coming in the first round before facing Alex Pereira, which we all know how that story ended. But he didn't get knocked out by Alex Pereira, where others like our current champion, Sean Strickland, did. But he followed that up with a disappointing guillotine choke, lost to Gerald Mearshart, who it happens to everybody. It's obviously not a great loss, but it's not a terrible loss either. But then he came back, knocked out Brad Tavares, lost to Brendan Allen via choke as well. So a little bit of an up and down career, but all of his losses are to respectable UFC fighters. He's got a phenomenal chin, which you never really want to know, but it's been tested a couple times, especially in that Pereira fight. And really what I like about him most is that every time he's striking, it feels like very fluid. He can go forward, back. He sort of rolls with the punches and can roll into strikes as well. Takes what opponents give him, in that if they're overextending themselves, he can really get out of the way, but also use that opportunity to hit. And that counter right has some unbelievable power. And that's where I think that Magomedov and his style could really start to expose him a little bit. He's got a Muay Thai background, was a K1 athlete, went at 18-2 back in the K1 as well. And actually back in 2019 fought now UFC fighter, which he might not actually still be a UFC fighter, Blood Diamond, who's had a little bit of an up and down UFC career to say the least, and beat him as well. But he's got a very wild style, loves to do spinning kicks, loves to do spinning back fists, etc. That can really get him into bad situations. And a guy like Bruno Silva with 20 knockouts and as good a counter striker as he is and as fluid as he is, I think if he can avoid a couple of those big strikes by Magomedov, that we could really see a lot of success for him and potentially a one-punch knockout. I know he's a huge dog, and there's good reason for a huge dog, but I think that he's got a good case to be able to knock Magomedov out of the fight, and that's where I would probably take him if you're going to take him for value. But Andy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fight as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see the wild style because there's a lot of these newer prospects that come in, and I feel like especially ones that we've seen, not that he is, but guys that we've seen from Dana White Contender Series and some of these other ones where you have to be wild to get in. They either don't put enough in or they go complete balls to the wall. And that's what I'm excited about with Magomedov is like he may overexpose himself early on because it's worked for him, right? He hasn't lost a single professional fight. He's got 10 knockouts and only 1 decision. For me, I don't have a play here personally, but I will probably like right along with you in that, like going with the value here and what should be not as much of a lopsided matchup as we're seeing here. I talked about it a bit in the intro. Most of these fights are super one-sided in regards to the betting market, and this seems to be one where, because of where the betting odds sit, you can get an edge on what should be a closer fight, or where Bruno has a lot more experience and has some other angles to win the fight rather than just going full speed ahead, full head of steam, like you would think Magomedov is probably going to approach this fight with.
Yeah, and it's not like Magomedov is a one-trick pony by any means. I mean, he is a world-class striker. I mean, his tie clinch is deadly, and he can strike from you at range. He can do, I mean, any kick to all 3 levels. I mean, he has every weapon to be able to get Bruno Silva out, and there's a reason that he's minus 260 against an established UFC veteran that is probably right outside of the rankings, despite going 1-3 in his last 4 fights. He's never been knocked out. And I think that could go a long way in a fight like this where both chins will likely be tested. I think that while Bruno Silva's chin is getting a little bit worse, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to hit clean on Magomedov. And that's where this could get interesting. The under in this fight is obviously a play that'd be interesting as well with how aggressive Magomedov is. He's got a temper on him. He's gonna burn hot early in the fight, and then both guys will probably slow down. But I don't think we get to a point where anybody slows down because I think we get a knockout. That market isn't up yet for the knockout, but the under is at 1.5 at -105. I like that, and I like Bruno Silva by knockout for value instead of playing Bruno Silva. I think that's the way he gets it done if he gets it done.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I know Rick is on Bruno Silva plus 205 for 3/4 of a unit, and I currently lean the under on this fight. Don't have a play, but may lock that in later on Twitter. Definitely, like I said at the beginning, follow us on Twitter at AndyHH Sports, at RickHH Sports, if you are looking to see us turn some of those leans into plays.